advancing the tradition of inspiring USF students to serve others and pursue successful careers in public service. So welcome Derek Brown to our stage, please.
Thanks so much, John. Let's give John another hand. Thank you. First and foremost, thank you so much for coming out today. Really appreciate it. Whether you're here in person or virtually checking us out online. Derek Brown, Senior Director of the Leo T. McCarthy Center. And our main focus is to prepare students for a successful life in public service. We're all about community. We're all about uplifting our students and the community partners that we work with. So today, we wanted to connect with some amazing community leaders that's doing extraordinary work throughout COVID, whether it's surviving or just absolutely taking things to the next level and absolutely crushing it amidst this COVID-19 pandemic that we're in right now. That being said, without further ado, I would love to introduce our all-star panelists. First up, we're going with Rudy Corpus from United Players. Rudy.
Feel like I'm graduating.
Well, I see that
Rudy.
player right there.
Yes, sir. Next up, we have Susana Rojas with Kaya Bente Cuatro. Susana. Susana, here you go. Have a seat. Okay. Next up, let's go with James Pingola from Collective Impact.
All right.
Thanks, Jay.
Okay.
All right, next up, we have Jackie Flynn with A. Philip Randolph Institute. Thank you, Jackie. And our moderator for the day is Michelle Meow with Michelle Meow Show. Here we go. Thanks so much, Michelle. You guys enjoy.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and another round of applause for our esteemed panel today sharing this afternoon with us. So why don't we start with, so many community members, the city, you're all beloved leaders of this city. So people know you, they know of your work, but I think a good place to start is to get to know you a little bit more personally. So why don't you share a Bay story, like your Bay story, your San Francisco Bay story, followed by just sharing a little bit about the organization and the work that you do. So we'll start with Jackie.
Well, I'm definitely a Bay kid. I was born at the Presidio when there was a hospital there. It's now Letterman Studios. But growing up in the Bay Area over the last 40 years, I've really seen so many changes happen. And one story I can remember that really brings me back to home base is so funny because when I was growing up, I wanted to run the furthest away from politics and the furthest away from community services as I could. I got my degree in biological sciences, but I remembered a moment in time that my dad brought me out to the Hunters Point shipyard, and we looked out and he told me that, this land out here is the promised land for our folks. And I never realized how much that impacted me as I grew up. But when I came back and had an opportunity to come to the A. Philip Randolph Institute, one of my first assignments was right up there on Hunters Point Road. Mm-hmm. And it just resonated with me that as much as I think I need to be somewhere else, this is my home base and where I want to be. And I'm so happy to be back and really work with my community and see it continue to grow.
That's awesome. That's such a great story. James.
Oh, wow. Hey, so when a story, right? So I'm just sitting here thinking too when you say James. My name's James Pingola. I'm executive director at Collective Impact, Ellie Hill Hutch Community Center. If you come through there, I always tell everybody this is kind of who I am. You come through there and you ask for James, people kind of look at you strange, like, who is that? Who are you talking about? So, but if you come through there, you ask for Uncle Stank. Everybody in the city know who he is. Like everybody can tell you pointing down the street at Ellie, say he's down there at the center. You go, let's go down there. He's down at the center. But when we talk about a story and telling a story, like I have so many stories. I'm born and raised in the Western Addition. Went to Golden Gate. When I say truly born and raised, I was born at Mount Zion Hospital. I went to Golden Gate Elementary School, that's now Creative Arts. I went to Benjamin Franklin Junior High School, that's now Gateway and KIPP, right? And Hill Hutch Center, where I'm at now, it used to be on that corner with Smacks. It was where we used to go when I was a kid and buy $1 hamburgers, right? So everybody used to kind of, every time after school, we would shoot down to that, where that big old LA Hill is. It was a big old vacant lot, but it was one little hamburger space that was there, and it was Smacks. And then we used to all kind of just go down there and buy that $1 hamburger. And with the hamburger, you got French fries for $1. So it was wild. And then now, you know, I sit there and I look at that space now, and I just never thought in my dreams that I would be doing this work. So that's just a little bit of the story and how long I've been in this city and that community.
How much is a hamburger today?
Oh, Lord.
Not a dollar.
Hey, not a dollar.
Exactly.
Not a dollar. Not
So,
a
son?
dollar.
So I am an immigrant from Colombia. I was born and raised in Colombia until I was 14 years old. At that point, my family and I immigrated to New York City. And then when my daughter was 2 months old, we moved here to San Francisco. And when we moved to Bernal Heights, and then obviously the mission is really close to Bernal Heights. And when I walked through the mission, I immediately fell in love with the community. And I fell in love with the smells, the sights, the colors, the music, the sounds, everything. And ever since then, I've been in the mission community serving it. I love what I do. I love my community, and I am extremely happy that I was able to move to San Francisco because I found home here.
Yeah, it's home for so many of us, especially, you know, a sanctuary, a safe space. And finally, last but not least, Rudy.
Yeah. So, what's happening, everybody? I just want to say, first of all, I'm honored to be on the stage with my 3 family members right here. I'm also was born in Letterman.
Hey.
Got it? Yeah. Letterman's is proceed. How many of y'all by hands real quick is from San Francisco originally? So thank you. So we call San Francisco Frisco.
That's right.
I didn't know. I'm born and raised in this actual neighborhood right here. District 6, South of Market. I'm a downtown boy for real, right? I run a violence prevention organization called UP, United Players, that originated from gang violence from the community and the kids. And so this neighborhood, to tell a story, I used to destroy this neighborhood. When people would see me come down the street, they would go the other way, or they would only respect me because they feared me. But now, my story is this. I own land and property in this neighborhood where we serve and keep the community safe. So from somebody who was on one side of the gun is on the other side of the gun now, I'm here to make sure that we preserve and we keep it safe for our community. Because y'all know anywhere down here in District 6 in the Tenderloin, ain't nothing tender about the loin. And so, you know, quick story. We used to go fishing right across over here as young kids. And one of my friends threw over the fishing pole. He's fishing, but he fell in the water.
Oh, no.
And he was like, help. I said, shit, I can't swim. So we threw him a little life raft and saved him, and we didn't catch no fish. And so anyway, that's my story from this neighborhood. I'm Filipino. Y'all know we got 120 years of history in this neighborhood of Filipinos.
Sounds like you've been saving the hood for all your life. And let's get into that. Let's talk about saving our people, saving our communities, especially during a pandemic. We know that it has been challenging for all of us, but let's talk about how the pandemic has affected your work, has affected your communities, the communities that you serve, and the organizations that you work for. We'll start with Jackie.
Well, definitely these last couple of years have been extremely challenging for folks that are in neighborhoods that had issues before COVID had even impacted our communities. I think first and foremost, health and safety were extremely fragile in our communities. We wanted to make sure that our folks had access to testing and when vaccines rolled out, vaccinations. But it's so important to educate our communities about it because there were so many fears and misconceptions and concerns about it that it really pulled people back from being out and about, being social. I mean, we were all being told to distance ourselves. So one of the things we really found to be resilient in the community was first, make sure that there was connectivity and access to what we already had was a digital divide to, Wi-Fi and connectivity. And we were partnering with the city. The city, came out to say, we're here for you. Everybody knows who actually does the work in the communities. And we were fortunate to partner with our Rec and Park department. We've got an awesome space in Bayview Hunters Point called the India Basin Waterfront Park. And we were able to establish a small tech hub so that families were able to come down, access computer devices, high-speed Wi-Fi internet, all in a park where we were able to still provide some connectivity and access. And that became one of the roots of being able to educate folks and refer them to other services and, just try and stay resilient. So we have found it was, in a way, this blessing in disguise that allowed us to not only address some of the issues that we already had, but really grow from there.
James.
Okay. Hey, so no, I was just sitting here thinking as Jackie was talking, right? So first of all, the pandemic, I just always like to give credit where credit is due, and I just like to give credit to Mayor Breed, right, for making that call so early in the process of the pandemic, right? Because it takes a lot to tell a city you shut down. Mm-hmm. That takes a lot. It takes a lot of heart when, we do this work. But, I was just telling Michelle the story earlier, right before the pandemic hit, I had partnered with this medical center, Maxine Hall Clinic, right? And they were trying to find a location and, folks didn't want them in their neighborhood because they did methadone. And people thought methadone was bringing different clientele to their neighborhoods. But for me, I knew, because I grew and born and raised in that district, I knew how long Maxine Hall had been around, and I knew the good they did in the community. And in that process, right, I was just thinking, you know what, I always say, I always like to give credit where credit due. There was a doctor there, Dr. Catherine James, that, came by Ellie Hill, and it just so happened I was standing outside and she was looking at my parking lot. And she was just saying, James, I need a location. They finna remodel our space, right? I said, you know what, Dr. James? I got something for you. So I got tennis courts in the back of my building. So it's a tennis courts and it's like a little mini park. So we went back there and kind of looked that over. And this is a few months before the pandemic. We looked that over and it was like, perfect spot for you. What you think? We came down, have some people look at it and, we can drop some trailers in here and do that. Long story short, right? They dropped a couple double wides back there. We up and running. She got her, few clients that, that was using Maxine Hall at the time. And then the pandemic hit. Wow. It's a blessing, right? It's a silver lining and everything. So in the process of that, I got 3,000 seniors that surround Ellie Hill Huts Community Centers. We got Rosa Parks, we got Queen Ada's and a few more senior homes around there. And we got, it's like, wow. And I knew myself that Ellie Hill was not closing. My doors never closed because I knew in that process, my community was finna get left behind. I knew it. I was like, this ain't finna happen for us, right? Everything I do, I got on the phone, I was calling people, we were trying to buy PPE products, we were doing everything. Dr. James, me and her started having conversations. She was like, what are we gonna do about the seniors across the street? We made carts so they can go over and because the seniors didn't want to come out. So they were going over doing testing over and pushing cars. Her and the nurses was going over, pushing the cars over to do testing. And we were, World Central Kitchen came in. We were working with Jack, and we were working with Rudy. We were working with everybody here. We were all working with World Central Kitchen. Started at the time, and then I again shout out to Cheryl Davis from the Human Rights Commission, who started, and Brittany Chicada, who actually reached out to World Central Kitchen on how we gonna get food up in here, right? So we started out with just doing hot meals. And I have this funny story that I always tell everybody. Like, so I had somebody actually reach out to one of my coworkers, Brittany Ford, and tell her, like, we got some pallets, but there, and I don't know if I can say this, is it okay to say braziers? So it was pallets of braziers, and like, hey, James, we got pallets of braziers down here. You want them? And we were like, Brittany, like, what we gonna do? I was like, we gonna go rent a truck and we gonna go get them, so we, like I said, you come to my gym today, right? My gym is just like, we made sure everybody got books. We were giving out books, we were giving out hot meals, we were giving out braziers, we were giving out clothes, anything that anybody called me. Nobody, when you call Collective Impact and you call Elliot Hush and you talk to somebody in there, we're not going to ask you how we're going to get it, right? We're going to ask you, like, when can we get it? That's what we do. We ask, when can you get it, and how we get it up to our community. And that was our way of bridging, because I knew my community wasn't finna go down to City Hall or go down by anywhere past where they're supposed to be, because everybody was already scared of going out. So we just made sure that we became not just a medical facility, but an emergency operations center all together. So we just did. It wasn't nothing you can come to Ellie Hill and ask for that we didn't have for
That's
you.
so incredible.
Yeah.
That's so great. Wow. Sasana.
Yeah, so in the mission community, we noticed right away that there was disparity and there were inequalities that were affecting how our community was being affected by the pandemic. And of course, the whole city was affected by the pandemic, but the Latino community at that point was the one that was getting sick the most and was ending up in the hospital the most. So immediately we knew we had to learn about public health really quickly and enact anything and everything that we can do. Something that we in the mission community take pride on is that we run to the fire. We may not know what we find there, but we're going to run to the fire and we're going to respond and we're going to create the resources and the systems and programs that are needed in order to respond to our community. So out of that, 30 plus organizations came together and we formed the Latino Task Force. We started with Food Hub that now serves over 7,000 families a week with food. We have testing and vaccination on 24th and Cap. We also have it at 701 Alabama, 20 Norton, and sometimes we have pop-ups all over the city. We also have, like I said, the Food Hub at 701 Alabama and the Resource Hub at 701 Alabama, but we also now have a hub at Excelsior, which is called a Casa. We have one at Baby Hunters Point, and another one that just opened with our support for the Pacific Islander community. And for us, what was important is to understand that inequities may be there, but this city is rich. And it's not only rich in economic resources, but in human resources. And because we are so rich in human resources, is that we have been able to guide and really lead the way in our country when it comes to responding to a pandemic, and responding to a pandemic in an equitable way, being able to bring the services to our communities in the way that makes sense for our communities.
That's right.
We can, and I think that now with what we have learned, we can go back to the way that things were. We have learned how to community and city resources, when they're given to community agencies that understand the community, understand what the culture and how to provide the services, and pair it with the scientific community, we can bring equity. And we can make those dollars last and go further than when we work separately. So I think that one is one of the biggest learnings. And two, I think that we all should be very proud to be in San Francisco and understand that this city was kept going by the communities of color that could never shelter in place when the shelter in place came into effect.
That's right.
Yeah. It's a sign for
Right on,
mayor
Suzanne.
at some point in the future. Rudy.
So that's why when I first started off, I wanted to acknowledge and thank these folks on the stage because I know they straight 10 toes to the floor, boots to the ground. Anytime you need anything done or you need something to happen, you can call on these folks right here. They ain't gonna ask for nothing. They just gonna do it. And so during this crisis, I always been in crisis before the crisis happened, especially where I live on 6th Street. So it's always something going on. But this also just made sure it taught me who was really serious about this work. Because when it came down to it, all the people basically all they want is the basic, fundamental, necessary things they want: water, food, and safety. But that's what the pandemic brought for our neighborhood. So I put a call out there to all the CBOs in my neighborhood, in particular the Filipino neighborhood, who a lot of us don't get along, but see who is serious about working together to make sure we take care of the seniors, the kids, the women, and everybody in between. And I told everybody, put up their white flag, because this is the opportunity for us to show if you really about what you're doing. And we came together and we was able to provide them with all the basic essentials. People just needed toilet paper. And since we didn't have, you know where we went? We went to these hotels, because the hotels were shut down, but they had a gang of toilet paper. So we would use the toilet paper and we would pass it out. And then we did caravanning with James and them. We go to every hood that people would not attend to go to because they scared. We go up in there and provide them with all the resources that they needed. And then the seniors, right? A lot of the Filipino ones, they couldn't speak English good. So we got people who was able to come to them and speak to them in a language where they can understand. And then we would get the mental health services, even on the phone, because they just needed to talk to somebody. So all we did is do what we usually do in crisis. What I do, I've been doing this when I first started this. And that's why I say, you know, to the people on the stage, you know, these are real live superheroes who are willing to put their life on the line in front of somebody else. That's the most probably beneficial thing you could do. It's to sacrifice your life before your life. And that's what they've been doing. Where Derek Brown at? He does that too. I'm not surprised when y'all put this together, who is going to be on the stage.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so this pandemic, man, really woke up the real. Because guess what? They having all kind of crises all over this nation. And guess what San Francisco's due for? An earthquake. So the first thing that's going to turn off in your house is the water, the gas, and the heat. You better know who your neighbor is. That's why my motto, it takes the hood to say the hood. And as much as I love our mayor, that's my sister. When the thing goes down, she ain't gonna be right here outside with you. The governor ain't gonna be here with you. You know who you gonna see? The people right outside your door. And most of them are homeless people. So you better know who they is and build a relationship, because if you don't, that's another problem you're gonna have to deal with. It takes the hood to say the hood. All it means is it takes us to save us. It's that simple. There's been crisis going on all over this world from the beginning of time. You just gonna know how to adapt. I'm a hustler. I know how to survive. Throw me in the jungle. Watch how I come out, man, winning.
I'm going to move right next to you.
1038 Howard Street. That's where I'm at. The Players Club.
I mean, all jokes aside, you know, it's obvious the pandemic is still here. It's not like it's gone. Some of us talk about it as if we're recovering or we've recovered. But let's focus and share with folks, you know, the community, mobilized in crisis, saved a lot of lives, right? And now we have something, to Sasana's point, something that is growing, that is working. we have a recipe for success. Now, how do we sustain that as we move into another year of the pandemic and maybe, who knows what the future beholds? But what are your thoughts on, sharing your ideas for keeping this going, keeping this momentum going? We'll start with Jackie.
It's been an interesting ride, right? We're all talking about how difficult it was, but we're also saying at some point it was a blessing in disguise because it brought people together in ways that we weren't working together before. And so what I think is important is to not oversee all the work that we do day to day, whether there's a crisis that's in front of everyone's face or things that we have to manage all year long. And I think what's super important about everything that we have done is bringing families together, bringing community leaders together. It helps us develop a plan. And I think Susanna's point about, making sure these resources are distributed equitably needs to also come from the voices of the folks that they're coming to, right? And so what was great about what we were able to do, bringing community together and still continuing to organize and figure out ways how to keep us connected, our community told us what they needed. And they already knew that we were mobilized to do these things. And so as we move forward with some of these ideas, some of these plans, now we know how to well support folks that are asking for resources, that are also thinking, it's not just for me, but it's for the person that can't speak or that can't communicate or that can't reach out for some of these resources. And it's just been a wonderful, I think, outlook for our future community, giving credit where credit's due as well. Our supervisor was mobilizing, and you're right, they're not going to be outside that front door when the crisis actually hits. But what we're hoping is that we establish some of these systems, establish the support prior to another round of this hitting our community so that we are already ready. We're already there responding, and we can just continue to grow from there. I would love to see my community continue to thrive. And, we haven't gone away from some of the stuff that we've already seen in terms of folks needing jobs, young people needing outlets and opportunities. We want to continue to make sure that those are available. And I'm hoping that I can pass the torch to the next leader, to the next person coming up behind us, because we're not going to be able to do this forever. So I'm just, I'm looking forward to that future. And I really believe that in San Francisco, we can do that.
James, thoughts on sustaining all of this movement right now, being prepared maybe for future crises?
Yeah, and I was just, and Rudy is so right about, when he talk about who's gonna be doing the work, right? And who is, and the truth is, who's gonna be the leaders in this? Because, for me, it's about structure, right? It's about making sure and I have this saying that, we can put a whole bunch of people on the bus, right? But how do we get everybody in the right seats, right? Because what we've learned is that, the work that we do, right, is not for everybody. This is not easy work. And I just want, we having truth up in here, and we just gonna talk about, but that's okay. Because on this bus is somewhere for you to be, right? It's a seat for you. It's something for you to do in this work, right? So it's the structure that we have to have in place. We have to know who's going to be your warriors out here, who's going to be your soldiers, and who's going to help you lead, right? Because it's just not, I just can't, and me and Jackie was talking earlier, I'm just not okay with just passing my torch just to anyone.
That's right.
Right? Because we work too hard to get to where we at.
100.
We work too hard to build our communities up, right? We do too much work to say, okay, here, and to give it to someone who's don't have a clue on how your community functions, on how we function as a people, right? And like you said, every different ethnicity has its own way. Every community has its own way on how they function, and you have to know how to navigate that. So at the end of the day, for us, it's just about making sure we have the right people in place, when it comes to making sure if we're going to sustain, right? Because it's hard, you know, and everybody on this panel, I tell you, this is not one of them joy rides. You don't get on this thing and think it's okay. I tell everybody every day, you know, we in a battle and we traumatized, right? And we don't never want to admit it. And we all sit here and say, we all have some trauma. And I'm just talking mental health is big, where we, especially in the Black communities. We are traumatized and we need some help, right? At the end of the day, we need some people to come in there that we can talk to. I tell everybody, if we get a healing center up in here where I'm at, because that's my goal is to work on a healing center, I'm gonna be the first one in line, right? Because I know what we go through. And we all have to just make sure that, you know, as we move out the way and we keep looking back, and I know Rudy, I know Jack, I know all you guys have to look back and ask yourself, who's in line for your job, right? And make sure that you're the one that's making sure that, you know, whoever's in line, that you're doing your best to kind of guide them and give them what they need and the tools they need to kind of move forward. Because this, like I said, this community work is not easy. It's not. It's every day you wake up and you never know what your day gonna be. You never know. Yeah. I mean, we talk about it, everybody can tell you a story that just happened last night. And then one that happened this morning that people don't even believe what we go through or have a clue. And it ain't nothing you can just make up. So, you know, it's just about the structure we put in place. And I pray that the generation and everybody who's listening, it's the generation that's coming after us. And everybody, you know, I was talking to somebody the other day, is, you know, we sometimes God misses a generation, and then the generation that comes behind that is the one that picks it up and really, really take it off with it. And I think our babies is going to be the ones that take that stuff and just fly, because we already building. That's right. You know, we built it. We put the foundation down. We just need somebody to pick it up and run with it. We just need the house to go up real quick.
Thank you, James.
Yeah.
So I think that during this pandemic, we have had a lot of learning lessons, and I think that we need to now continue to build upon those learning lessons and continue to grow them. I think that one of the things is that we need to have more communities of color represented in the city. In city positions that can really truly influence the way that the resources are distributed in an equitable way. And that when plans are being created, the plans are not coming from this like scholastic idea of like, this is how you make a plan to help a community. But from people that were like, well, you know what, when I was in the pandemic, this is how I got food, and these were the organizations that did it, and this is how they did it. So if we follow that, we're gonna be cool. But if we only have, because one of the things, the people that are trying to get into the city and jobs in the city is they're intimidated by the application, by how many degrees you need to have. And so oftentimes really good resumes go unchecked because they don't have the degrees that they need to have. And in reality, you're passing on San Francisco raised people who have the investment, who have the love, and who have the know-how that can truly make a difference. So I think that that's one of the ways to sustain the work that we're doing and the learning that we're having right now is by hiring local into the city so that we can really truly make a difference. When it comes to our babies, Generation C is a beast. Like they take a cost and they drive it home. But anytime that you have a BC needs guidance. So it's having this mentorship program so that they can come and they can do that fighting. Because maybe we are the ones that now move into the city and they take our positions and we're working in tandem. They have the energy that we are starting to lose. We work long hours. We've been in this for a long time. So now our babies can have that energy and we can feed them the knowledge. Right. So, you know, so we're just have to continue to work together, place the resources in an equitable way in the hands of the people that know how to distribute it better or well. And then also, I feel like for us to continue to work together and remember that one community cannot thrive without the other. If one of us is suffering and one of us is being oppressed, all of us are being oppressed.
Yeah. Thank you, sis. Man, if anything, I've been doing this for like a minute now, for like 27 years, and I'm still learning. What I learned of surviving out here in these streets, it ain't what you know, it's who you know, and who
Amen.
knows you. Better yet, who even like you. I'm a likable guy. You got to get to know me. You know? And sustaining, right?
Yep.
San Francisco is the best city on this planet. I've been all over the world. And we one of the richest cities. In this neighborhood where I'm at in District 6, we got development, we got tech, we got, nonprofits. We have to learn how to build this relationship and know how to sustain that. I'm into building bridges, not walls, right? In San Francisco, with all this bipping going on, people breaking into people's cars, all these robberies going on, right? We got solutions and answers for that. But you got to have the right people at the table to make sure that some of this stuff won't happen. I guarantee you had James, Jackie, and Susanna in front of Louis Vuitton. People ain't gonna break into them stores because they know what they do for the people. And so you just got to keep things simple and keep it smart. I always talk about KIS, kiss me, keep it simple. That's how you sustain.
I'm going to call on John Zipperer to get ready. We'll take questions from the audience for our panel. So if you have some questions, get ready to ask them. I think there's a mic that'll go around.
Is that a questions?
Is John here, or is he coming? Oh yeah, he's got to come from upstairs because he's also managing our YouTube or virtual audience. So if you've got questions, let John know. One thing that I love is the resilience of our communities that you've all shared some examples about, but share some recent ones. And I know, Rudy, you wanted to go kind of last, but I'm gonna pick on you only because it's just a few days ago that the annual buyback, the gun buyback program happened. And I can't tell you just how incredible it is that the program has been able to do what it did. I want you to tell the story.
Sure.
Tell us about the buyback program that just happened.
Sure. So before I even go there, on 9th and Howard, I was shot. I'm a survivor of gun violence twice. I've been shot on 6th Street and on 9th Street. And so one of my passions is to end senseless gun violence. I'm not against the Second Amendment, but I am against senseless gun violence. You see kids getting killed, people who just minding their business, trying to work, getting shot in the crossfire. And so annually, what we've been doing for the last 10 years is gun buybacks. It's no questions asked, and everybody who does it is all the way from the community to the SFPD to the city folks and just ex-felons who have been in prison for murder has came back, and mothers who lost their kids to violence. We all come together as a community, and we are able to get thousands of guns off the streets, and we destroy them and we turn them into art. And so this last Saturday that just passed, we was able to get 268 guns off the street. 268 guns, and 15 of them were assault rifles. I'm talking about if somebody walk in here right now and he squeezed that one trigger, he'll knock down everybody in here. We was able to get rid of all them and they will be destroyed. So this is one little speck in the field of how we end violence. And that's the part that me and my team is playing. But the other part of it too is educating the young kids, as young as elementary, and talking to them and educating them about the truth, how to survive in a world that's full of hate. That's what we're doing.
It's so incredible. It's so incredible. Anyone
God's
else
work.
want to share maybe a success story or a story of resilience, especially something that maybe most recent or super proud of?
One of the things I'm extremely proud of as we talk about wanting more representation, communities that look like us in city leadership, in high management positions, we want to move the needle in making sure that these pathways are available. And, like my colleagues here, we've been doing this for decades. And over years, I've been able to really see growth in a lot of these young people. That's what makes me feel, I think, optimistic about our future here in San Francisco. But at least 10 years have been spent just working on leadership development in our youth population. And I'm starting to see some of that come back. And I have young people reaching out to me for letters of recommendation for grad school. And I'm starting to see these young people in places around like tech, for example, where we don't have a whole lot of representation of people of color, of women. And I'm starting to see that needle move, and that really inspires me to continue to do the work that we do. And I'm just so fortunate to meet some of these young people that they literally came out of the gutter, right? And they literally came out of places that people gave up on them years before they were even able to show what potential they have. So it's just very humbling to see. And, you know, it inspires me to keep pushing forward, keep reaching out where we can. And although we may not be able to save them all, just like we're not able to get every gun off the street, even just that one kid you save or that one gun you take off the street that prevents that next thing from happening
That's right.
is what is so important about the work that we do. And nobody's up here for awards and recognition for what we do. We're here because we love and are passionate about our communities.
Amen.
Yeah. We got John back down here, and so let's take some questions from the audience.
Hey, can I add to that before we take
Yeah.
the question too? And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Nico Bernard. He's my team. He's my team manager at LA Hill. And I'm looking at Derek Brown. And I'm listening to what Jackie said, and I'm thinking about Shaman Walton, and I'm thinking about the mayor, and I'm just thinking about these are people that I have known that have grew up
Right.
in San Francisco, right? And like Jackie was saying, you looking at who in leadership now and where they come from, and you say it's all possible, right? I had a young person call me just yesterday. And he called me, he said, Uncle Stank. He said, I just wanted to call and check in. I said, what you checking in for? He said, I'm in Florida. I said, what you doing in Florida? He said, oh man, me and my wife done started a car business. I said, a wife? I said, you got a wife? He said, yeah, we started a car business. We buy cars, we deliver them, to people's houses. We got our own little business down there. And, I just like, that's why we do this work, right? Mm-hmm. It's because, you look back. And I ask myself all the time, am I violent prevention or do I do that? I don't call myself violent prevention, but do I prevent violence sometimes? I do.
100%.
I do. I got a revolving chair in my office that people just get up and down, up and down, up and down. But at the end of the day, I just be like, if you don't, we all here, this work, you have to have some passion. Mm-hmm. You have to have some love for your community. You have to do that. Me and Rudy we come from some dark spaces. Sure. No, dark spaces. People don't believe. And I tell everybody, I didn't choose this work. This work chose me.
100%.
I didn't choose it, and where I come from, it's just not, in the things that I have seen and been through, people would not believe it. Same thing with Rudy. We just come from a dark space, and look what we do today.
Come on now.
And I just say that, even with Mr. Brown over there, and like I said, Shaman Walton and them, and, I watch, I'm a little older than that, but, I watched all them grow and get into them spaces. So everything is possible for the people that's listening. Everything is possible.
You have a question for our panel? Yeah.
Facts.
Hi, my name is Ashley Chang. I'm the Executive Director of Charity Cultural Services Center. I work with a number of you who are on the stage, and I'm so proud to be here to hearing all that you've done for all your communities. Thank you again for Derek, who organized this and invite this diverse panel here. My question here today is about the leadership positions that you guys have alluded to earlier, about how to get a seat on the table. How do we continue to encourage our youth and our next generation to be getting that seat on the table for our city positions where decisions are made? What are some of the advocacy organized? Are there any efforts that being organized to advocate for more? Because aside from the work that we all do every day, right, to help our community, there must be some type of effort that we need to work together on to advocate for having a more equitable seat at the table for these city positions. When these decisions comes down, when the resources are being allocated, what do we do, right? How can we work together on this?
Can I put something in? I'm gonna put something in real quick. You know, if you, and I know you heard this, the mayor has the program Opportunities for All, right? And if you look at some of the positions, them young people they get to intern into supervisor's office, they get to intern in the mayor's office, they get to intern with the police department, they get to intern in all of these departments. So doing Opportunities for All gives every young person an opportunity to go in and see what it looks like, what it feels like, what it may, you know, where you can go in, you know, in politics and city jobs and all that. It's just a great opportunity, and it's been super helpful because I see a lot of young people, and if you go into some of these departments now, you have a lot of young people of all races that's up in there now, that's at the table, because she has opened up these positions and gave everybody an opportunity to kind of come in. And that's what, you know, it's big. So it was 3,000. We're talking about 30. How many cities you know that actually hired almost 3,800 young people over the summertime?
And paid
and paid internship. These are paid internships. So that's real big on what they do there. So I think that is, you know, one of the roads, one of the paths, and one of the processes that we're doing to make sure that young people go into these positions.
Can I add to that? I think also it's really keeping our eagle eye on what's going on in the commissions, what's going on in all of those different positions that really have that voting power in order to make decisions over the budget. And when those positions are available, it's phone calling, it's advocating, it's writing letters, it's making sure that our communities are represented in those positions of power. Like, for instance, we were just able to get one Latino in the police commission. And for one Latino, it was over 100 people working to get that person in there. But that's what needs to happen. And how I was saying before, all of us need to be calling each other and saying, hey, I have this candidate for this position, back me up. Let's all go together. Because if we do, like I said before, if one of us is oppressed, all of us are oppressed. And our commissions, our boards, they need to be as diverse as our city. And the only way that we do that is by advocating and joining hands and working together.
And I'll just add, first of all, let me say hi to my friend Ashley over there. You know, she, just like all of us here, actually has a seat at this panel because of the work that you are doing at Charity Cultural Services Center. But I will add that it's all about meeting folks where they are. Rudy will tell you, we've gone into high schools for years to meet kids directly where they are. And I've had so many young people come to me and say, you know, I wish I had met you a year ago before I got into the stuff that I got into, because they realize how hard it is to untie some of that. But it's very inspiring to meet a lot of young people with so much potential. We do have leadership programs in the community. Ours is the Resilient Youth Leadership Academy, where the goal is really to expose them to how policy works. And although not every one of them wants to be a politician, like I said when I started, I wanted to run the furthest away from politics and politicians, but there's all kind of other opportunities to influence policy, and being on the beat of what's going on is so important, because that energy gets so, you know, it gets huge, especially when you are fighting for your basic needs, fighting for your community. And sometimes just watching the light bulb turn on with some of these young people is truly inspiring, because they start to get it. They start to understand how resources get allocated, not just in their city, but statewide, how these resources will impact how we do things, including make our streets safer, make resources available, make sure that the health of our communities continues to improve. And I just think that, honestly, as we continue to collaborate and look at how we find our folks where they are and create these pathways to these leadership and executive positions, we got the potential to really build something out here in San Francisco that can be a model for other cities nationwide.
That's real talk.
We have time for a question, another question or two.
PJ Bastiani, Vice President of the Gamma Chi Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, seated here in San Francisco. My question is for Rudy. You mentioned the bipping, the auto break-ins, and the Louis Vuitton robbery has made national news. What strategies, as a fellow resident of District 6, what strategies do you recommend, or do you see us coming together around, making sure that we keep our community safe, so that, we make sure our businesses are safe, and that, folks aren't going to have to worry about walking down Larkin Street and seeing somebody's head getting cracked open with a bat, or feeling like, you can't walk your kids down and without seeing somebody's car getting broken into, or some of the needles and everything like, but really more so with the bipping and the burglary. How can we as a community come together to make sure we keep everybody safe?
So first of all, thanks for asking that question. I'm sure this whole city is frustrated behind what's going on. And there's a lot of concerns that's going on, and people are trying to find solutions and answers to it. And so I'm so glad that we have somebody in place like Mayor London Breed, who's from the hood, who understands this, that wants to take proactive approaches towards this. And so what I learned to do is to get activated with my immediate community. We met last night. I don't know if you heard of Urban Alchemy. Urban Alchemy, we met SFPD, our district supervisor, Matt Haney, and residents who have the same concerns that I got and you got. And we're finding ways to make this happen. Because if you know right now, right, in the TL, a lot of it got pushed out, but it's being pushed now towards the South of Market. So that's not a solution just to push people out. And I think what Brother James is saying is that we have to have other approaches too, where we have to get mental health services right, right? We have to find out, we got to find out how we can make sure we support and help the police out in these situations. And these cats who are doing the robbing and the breaking in are held accountable for the actions they doing. Because if they out there robbing and they doing all the stuff they doing and they get a slap on their hand, right? There's no consequences. And then you got all these dudes who are immigrating from other countries who are drug dealers that are out there as young as 13 to 16 years old. And they know the game. When they get busted, guess what? They don't even send them to juvenile hall no more because there ain't no juvenile hall. They send them to Huckleberry and they get right out. And so there's so many different challenges we're trying to figure out, man. And so I would love for you to be at the table with us because we're still trying to find solutions behind this.
Can I add something?
Yeah, please.
And I think really in order to be able to address situations like this, we have to really look at it in 3 stages. The short term, the things that need to happen right away in order to keep our community safe. Then we have the middle range where it's, okay, we're starting to create systemic change so that these things don't repeat itself. And then the long term, when we're having the resources and the mental health and the substance abuse and all of it working together so that we're not only having a revolving door of people going in and out of jail or in and out of treatment, but really having a process and a system that helps people recover and lead productive lives. Because I can guarantee you, when you sit down and you talk to people who are addicted, they're so discouraged because that addiction is taking everything from them. And they don't see any way out on how to get their lives back. And so we have to look at the whole thing, not only the short term. The short term are temporary solutions, but we really need to start working on the middle and the long term.
Yeah. And let me just say this though to you, right? There's separate issues that's going on. You got the drug dealing that's going on, and that's been happening since the beginning of time. But now you have this population of people who are mentally ill, who don't care about your business. They don't care about the resident. They don't care about the sidewalk or nothing. How do we fix that issue? And that's what we're getting stuck at, because you got large amounts of homeless campments. They got more rights than I got rights. You know what I mean? I want to provide services and help them out. But when you get into a point now when you just using the bathroom on the floor, you leaving your needles, and you making the neighborhood unsafe for the women and the kids and the seniors, I got a problem with that. And so we got to figure a solution out. And this is what we've been doing. I know the mayor's been working on it. She came with a new plan today, right?
Yep.
But where is the money being allocated to? We need to make sure it goes into the right hands of the right people to know what they need to do, to make sure we execute a plan that will make sure, like you said, the short term and the long term, where everybody gets, the right resources that can make it safer. But one thing that I must say, man, that people need to be held accountable for their actions that they doing this. That's why, man, people's out there, man, running wild because there ain't no accountability.
We have time for one final question.
Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me? My name is Vasquez. I want to thank you all. It's an honor to hear what you do, and I'm really inspired. So I have an agency called Next SF, and we create private-public partnerships to promote small business, the neighborhood corridors. So I'm a small business guy. Was wondering, small business is, what are you all doing to foster the sense of entrepreneurism and small business? Because that's so important for young people, the community, the city. Just want to hear your thoughts.
We'll have one of you answer, if that's okay, for time.
I can
ahead,
take
Cesar.
that call. So I'm the executive director for Calle 24 Latino Cultural District, and helping our small businesses is one of the things that we do generally. And through the pandemic, we've really been focusing not only on helping the small businesses bridge that technology divide that became ever more apparent during the pandemic, and when our stores didn't know how to take online orders or how to survive in a world where people were not going out as much, but also getting the ones that had those like vendors, the ones that had their home businesses, and how do we, with the storefronts that are now open, how do we place you there? How do we get you to the point where we are helping you get your licenses? We're helping you get your LLCs. So that's what we do at Calle 24. We sit down, we create a plan with a person, and then we see them through. Right now we're looking at, as we all know, the vendors in the streets have gotten to be a large number, and that's necessity, right? People need to pay the rent. People need to eat. So how do we get you to a point that you're going to be able to continue to do that, but in a way that it still supports our community? So right now we're instituting a pilot program in which we're taking these vendors and we're giving them all of the knowledge, all of the information, and helping them, and we're going to be paying for their permits in order for them to become more organized and not just be out there. So that's one of the things that we're doing to encourage entrepreneurship and help our small businesses in our community.
That's so incredible. Well, I can't believe it, but that is the end of our program. I could sit here for another hour learning